How many of y'all just happy to be in the midst?
This ain't
Amen.
no ordinary words. This ain't no ordinary song, yeah. The God I serve is greater than the ordinary. So I'ma give him all I have in this moment. Come on, help me say, this ain't no ordinary words.
You see no money? I mean, you just tired of counting money. Anybody like that?
No.
Trying to get rid of some money. Anybody here trying to get rid of it? No? Amen. So we all need some help, don't we? Amen? We all need some help. And so we're trying to empower the people. We're trying to empower you with good financial principles, financial disciplines, financial theology. Because God has a theology when it comes to money. And we talked about that last week. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, shaken down, pressed together, and running over. But we always think of giving as giving to someone else. And that's not always the case, because many times where we drop the ball is that we forget to give to ourselves.
Yes.
Amen, somebody.
Amen.
You ought to be your biggest investment.
Yes.
And you ought to take the money that God blesses you with. I don't care if it's $2.37.
Amen.
You take that $2.37 and you do something with it. Amen.
Amen.
Don't blow it. Don't waste it, because you don't know when it's coming again.
Amen.
Amen. So today we're doing something different. There's not going to be any preaching. Now that's the best preaching you're going to get right there.
Amen.
Amen. So today we have a friend of ours, a very, very dear friend of ours. We've been working with him for years now? 10 years now. His name is Sean Newby. He's from Edward Jones Financial. You are a financial advisor. He is a financial advisor. He advises us on our financials. Really, he advises First Lady, and their First Lady tell me what we're going to do.
Amen.
Amen. So what we're going to do, we're going to have just a frank talk about financial planning today. Amen. And we've had some questions that we made. Now, I want you to understand, anytime you have a question, just raise your hand and we'll answer your questions. And we'll stay here all day long answering questions if we need to, at least till Sean got to go. Amen.
We have till 4 o'clock.
Oh, okay. So we're going to just we have some prepared questions, and we're going to talk about financial planning and what it takes to get a good financial plan in your life. So before we do anything, I want Sean to introduce himself and kind of tell us a little bit about himself, and then we'll go to the questions.
Definitely. First of all, thank you everybody for allowing me to be here with all of you. Thank you, Bishop and First Lady. I appreciate you having me in. This is a topic that is very passionate to me and very important. So it's part of the reason why I'm in the career. So I've been a financial advisor for going on 11 years now. And my background wasn't in money. I didn't come up growing up in money and learning what to do with it. I learned what to do with it later in life. And so I've made it something that's really a mission for me to make sure I can pass on and share any information. If you come to me, I tell people all the time, I'm going to try to teach you something new every time I see you. But that's my passion. My background is in the military. I was in the Army for about 10 years. And then later on, ended up coming to a company called Edward Jones and currently run my own location here in Winston off of Stratford Road. So I've been happy to do that. Have a family, wife and 3 girls, and they're all grown. And so it's been a journey, and it still is a journey, actually. It never really stops, does it? And so thank you for all the prayers, because I have all girls in the house. So y'all know what that's like? Yes. But they are great. They're in good shape. We are truly, truly blessed. So that's my story. That's it. So, but I'm here to share and anything and everything I can.
So that is great. So before we go into the questions, I would like to share with you why it doesn't matter how much money you're making. Everyone needs a financial advisor. I was probably about 18, 19 years old, and I remember this lesson that my grandmother taught me. So you know you got a few grandmothers, but this was Grandma HB. Grandma HB, like my mother and like my grandma Doretha, she cleaned houses. And many of you probably ride by the store of the family of the house that she used to clean, Badcock. Everybody know the furniture store? Mm-hmm. So they're originally from Florida, and my grandmother cleaned their house. And that was her job. That's what she technically retired doing. But she told me something when I was probably about 18, 19. She said, no matter how much money I make, I'll put me a couple of dollars to the side. That couple of dollars has turned into more than I can ever imagine. So it was because of a financial advisor. My grandmother gave me the foundation of it, but it was a financial advisor that took it further. So our grandmother had something for us, but a financial advisor is someone that can take you and advise you and take it further than what your grandmother had. So that's the first thing I want you to know, that doesn't matter how much money you make. Yes, you do need a financial advisor. So let's get into the questions. Financial planning. When do we start to plan?
Yeah, I saw that question. That's a really good question. And I think we all think we have to wait till we're prepared and until we're at a certain point in our life. But the truth is as soon as you start making money, you have to start saving, you have to start planning. And so what that looks like is, I used to always tell young folks, is if you made $3, split that up. 1 goes to spending, right? Because we still got to live. Mm-hmm. 2 goes to saving. And then the third dollar goes to investing. And so as soon as you start making money, if you live your life and you start planning that way, and by the way, my philosophy is all of that's after tithing. And I'm not just saying that because we're here, but that's the truth.
Thank you, Sean.
That's a covenant thing, right? So if you learn what to do with a little, you'll know what to do with a lot. And that's my philosophy. And so it starts as soon as you start making some money. And if you can follow those principles as early on as possible, you'll have plenty. You will have plenty. So the problem comes in is later in life, right? Things happen, life happens, and so that changes. But you still cannot, you said it earlier, you cannot stop taking care of yourself. So you still have to take a piece of that and pay yourself. You got to find a way. And it doesn't matter how big or small it is. You mentioned it can turn into something later. We'll talk some more about that. But as soon as you start making money, you need to start saving and investing.
So
Who can help me to make the best decisions when I begin to plan?
Everybody has advice, and I would stay away from TikTok and Instagram. Not that everybody that's out there is bad, but sometimes they don't understand your situation. And so they're giving advice that may not apply to you, and you're going to try something that may not work for you. So this is where going to a financial planner or a financial advisor really is important, because those folks are trained and they learn concepts. They help you understand what to do with all these pieces. We go to school forever, it feels like, to learn how the system works. Go to these folks. Now, I'll tell you the differences between a financial planner and a financial advisor. So a lot of times a financial planner is someone who is trained, certified to lay out a plan based on your story, based on your situation. They give you that plan and they say, here you go. And you walk away and you make it happen. That's a financial planner. And they're really good at doing that. So there's nothing wrong with using a financial planner. You just got to remember that sometimes that's where the cost comes in. You're going to pay to get the plan. So a financial planner. Then you have a financial advisor. And I see we have a question already.
Go ahead.
Did you have a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. If you don't already retired, then how do you do it to get to where you need to be financially?
So the question was, if you already are retired, how do you still get to where you need to be? It's a great question. It feels like it's impossible, right? Yeah. So it's not always impossible. Sitting down with a financial planner is the answer to that, because that person can look at all the pieces and say, this is what you got to work with. This is where we can go. So I like to describe and I'll come back to the financial advisor. So the answer to your question is, it doesn't matter what age you are and where you are. I like to talk about this money thing like a GPS. So has everybody used the GPS?
Mhm.
So the first thing that a GPS has to do when you turn it on is what? Does anybody know?
Yeah, find out where you
Where you
are.
are, that's right. So you figure out where you are. What's the next thing?
Where you want to
Where you
go.
want to go. And what's the next thing? You guys are on the roll.
Yeah,
How you gonna get there? Right? And then the last thing is who or how are you gonna stay on track? That's what it takes. So it doesn't matter where you are in your life, that's where the process starts. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. So real quick, the last piece of this is differences between financial planner and advisor. So an advisor will also do a plan for you. They'll lay out everything, all your pieces of information, the tools that you have available to you, but one extra step. Usually the financial advisor has a license to actually implement the plan, actually put it in place. So if that means buying investments, if it means moving things and taking advantage, and the advisor actually does it with you or for you.
And I was just gonna add, one piece to that. When we were on our way back from, Myrtle Beach yesterday, we was doing this financial planning, conference, and one of the advisors on there said that when someone comes to me, they have a chunk of little money that came in from whatever source. They said, I would know that you are at the place that you need to be biblically when you call your advisor and say, hey, I got this money, what do I need to do with it? And I think oftentimes when we think about our tax refund check, for those that get a refund check, just FYI, y'all, Bishop and I do not get a tax refund check. But
And if you're doing your taxes right, you shouldn't get a refund. Because think about it. That's extra money that the government has been holding for you. Tell me if I'm wrong, Sean.
Exactly.
Holding for you and interest free,
Mm-hmm.
and they just give it back to you what they've been holding. That's not the way. That's not wise. You should check. I'll let Sean explain it. Good.
But the thing that I was getting at is that when you do get a lump sum of money, no matter how much it is, that's what you should be thinking about. Hey, calling your advisor and saying, hey, I got this. What do I need to do that's going to help me on my plan to get where I'm trying to go with this little extra money that I have?
Absolutely.
So let me just be real with y'all. Let's have a transparent moment. Okay. Let's say you get a surprise check for $5,000. Okay, $5,000. Cash. Mark, what's the first thing you're gonna think about doing? Paying your bills. That's the first thing. Then the next thing. Be transparent.
It's okay, Mark ain't gonna say it, but I'm gonna buy Angel some shoes. That's what I'm gonna do.
Jaja, you get a bag full of $5,000. You go outside, there's a bag of $5,000. That's what I'm looking for. Transparency. Most of us, if we get a lump sum of money, before we even get the money, they call you and say the check is on the way. Before the check is coming, we've already spent it in our head.
Yep.
I'm gonna get this. Ooh, I'm gonna pay this bill off. And you know what? I've been working hard. I'm gonna get these shoes I've been looking for. And you know, I gotta get my baby something. You know, she want that so and so. So I gotta get the boy the PlayStation 5 and blah blah blah. And I guess I get a church a little something. And then, you know, that's where our mind is. That's why we need financial advisors. I hear you, Bishop. We need financial advisors that when those things happen, before we start calculating the money, hey, Sean, I got $5,000 coming. Tell me what I need to do. Tell me what's the best plan before I spend it. And trust me, he's going to tell you what you can and what you can't do. Okay, good.
Yeah, so the first thing we'll talk about is how much you withholding because you're giving the government all this money.
Please explain that. Explain that.
Yeah, so think about this for a second. Would you let somebody hold your money, all your money throughout the year, interest free?
Mm-mm. Don't want to.
Don't want to, but we're doing it. when you pay that extra tax? Does the government charge you extra when you don't pay them on time?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So I want you to think about that when you are looking for that extra tax return at the end of the year. Stop letting other people hold your money for free. And we're going to talk some more about it. That's actually one of the questions that's coming up. We're going to talk about the differences.
So let's move into financial freedom. How do you define financial freedom?
Yes. So that is a question that I think is different for a lot of people, but I'm going to boil it down to something I think is going to resonate with everybody. When you think about your life and what you're doing, the things you can't do, financial freedom is being able to do all those things that hold you back, that you can do now because you have the money to do it. Not only those things that you can do when you want to do them.
Amen.
All right. So to me, that's financial freedom. And that's, for a lot of people, that's our goal. It's trying to figure out, how do we do that? You know, we used to always talk about how to figure out, how do we get to retirement? Well, that's not really the question anymore. A lot of people are telling me now, what do I want to do? Or how can I get to a point in my life where work is not so important anymore?
Amen.
Right? That's financial freedom. That's figuring out. That doesn't matter what age you're at. That's figuring out how to get to some place and having some choices, true choices. That's what financial freedom is.
And you know, we talked about Bishop preached about this earlier when he was saying the choices that we make, the decisions that we make with the money that we have. It's not always that I have to take away from my wants and desires to be able to be financially free. It just means that I have to repurpose and reevaluate where I'm putting my money so that it can, one, come back to me tenfold if I'm doing the right thing. And you will be surprised at how things circle back around. There's loopholes in taxes and how the government works, and it's an advisor or a planner or someone like that that actually learn those things. I know I'll be watching TikTok. I'm gonna stop. But at least when I watch TikTok, then I have to go to the internet, then I have to, kind of research it for myself. But I found the more that I focus on how can this reinvest in not only in me and my family, but within my community. Because I feel like if we're helping our community, that we're going to keep our dollars in our area, and then it's going to just add more to us that we can't even imagine by doing something like that.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things I've always told people is I really believe that everybody has the right to prosper. And what sense does it make for me to be the only one in my community that's making it and I'm not even helping anybody else? So, putting back into your community in so many different levels, especially monetarily, right? Trying to figure out, how do you do that? How do you grow your community? How do you grow your acumen? All those things matter.
Yeah. I don't remember the statistic anymore of how many times the Black dollar circulates in this community as compared to in the Asian, I think it's the Asian community, that their dollar circulates like 10 times more than the Black dollar. And what that means is that we as African Americans, we take our money and we go out and we give it to the Asian business owner, or we give it to Tommy Hilfiger, or whatever designer and stuff it is. But we have to change our mindset, and all of this comes down to the mindset. And so I'm gonna ask the hard question. When I was thinking about these questions, y'all have to understand that for me, I grew up in a single parent home. My mother, it was just my mother. She didn't have too much, just average single parent doing the best that she can. But I saw her, her financial plan was she had a wire tablet and she would write down her bills each month and write down how much money that's the way she did her budget and see what she could do. And when we would go to the grocery store, she would say 2 pieces of meat for Joe, 1 piece of meat for Niecy, 1 piece of meat for Tanya, no meat for Jason, because Jason was with my grandma. But it was those things that she did that I said, you know what? I'm not going to be that way. And so the question that I have relating to financial freedom is it possible to have financial freedom if you're living in poverty? Now, understand that living in poverty has nothing to do necessarily with the mindset either. Living in poverty is a number that the government has set, saying that if you are a family of four and you only make this certain amount of money, that is considered the poverty level. So can we actually be financial free if we are living in poverty?
So I really thought a lot about that when you said that. That is really a tough question. So I'm going to bring it back to what I described as financial freedom. So if you're living in poverty, do you feel like you can have the freedom to do whatever you want? That's a tough question. In some cases, you can. In some cases, you may be living in poverty by definition, but you're still living in a way that you can do what you want to do. You still can tithe, you still can invest, and you still can save. So it's not impossible to live in that. It's just tough. It's a little bit tougher. Your decisions are going to be different.
And you know, I just thought about something. When I had my son at 17 years old, and I didn't want to be on, they used to call it AFDC back then. Mm-hmm. I didn't, in food stamps and stuff. I didn't want to do that, but that was my only option. And what is it called when you're Section 8 housing? So my sister went and got me on Section 8 housing. So my rent was what, like $20, $30? Like really nothing, right? But I'm living in poverty, right? Because I qualified for Section 8. But I took that year and I saved up every dime that I could. And so when I no longer qualified for Section 8, then I went and bought my first house. So I bought my first house when I was only 20. I had GG, so that was 22, 23, somewhere around there. So I bought my first house, but it was because I had the mindset to save while I had the opportunity to save when I was only paying that little $20, $30 in rent. Of course, you ain't have no light bill. I don't know if they still do that, so you ain't have no light bill. So I was living, I bought my kids their bedroom set and I was able to pay cash for it. I bought my living room set. So I was able to move into a house with almost new furniture because I took the opportunity that while I was living in poverty, my mind was not in poverty.
See, great. I just want to say this one thing. So I think that's really important that you said that, because I think what happens is when we live in poverty and we take advantage of these programs that help us, we get it confused and think that's supposed to keep us there. But in reality, if we use it correctly, it's supposed to help us, lift us out of that. It lifts the burdens for all the other things. And if we do the right thing with the money that we're given, we can come out of that. We can create that financial freedom. And then the converse, right? So I want to talk about the converse real quick, because we always think about people that make a lot of money. I work with people that make a lot of money. But what if you got a lot of debt? Mm-hmm. So are you living financially free? So you can make $300,000 a year, but you got a mortgage, you got car payments, you got taxes, you got family obligations, you got all this other stuff. And at the end of the day, you have no paycheck left. What freedom do you have then? None. So it's really important to remember, it's not necessarily about the amount, it's what you do with what you have.
I just like to share my testimony because preaching don't pay the bills, contrary to popular belief. And it's important that we understand, like Sean said, and what First Lady said, is that when we make good decisions with what we have in preparation for what might come. I was working at Reynolds and I was making good money. I was making around $80,000, $90,000 a year. But because I know how the economy was, I was always paranoid to know that I'm working for this really good company. I'm making good money. This is not going to last always. Something's going to happen. And so I invested a good portion of my money in savings, and I saved a lot. While I was working, I lived modestly. I didn't live above. And the whole term, you make more money, you spend more money. I was I was determined not to live in that. And then what happened was, maybe 5, 6 years later, I got laid off. They wanted to move the company to Reedsville, and they wanted me to work on Sundays. And I said, well, I pastor a church, I can't do that. And y'all know I never took a salary from the church. And so I can't do that. And so I had to quit my job, and I went from making $80,000 a year to working 4 hours a week as a janitor, making $7.25. Adjustment. But with that, I had to make adjustments in my life. I couldn't keep living like I was living in 8,000. I could cut off the cable. Couldn't go to the grocery store and eat out like I wanted to. I was eating bologna sandwiches. If I went anywhere, it's strictly to go to work. I didn't, because anytime you leave out the house, you're leaving out the house to spend money. So I had to really tighten it up and really make some choices. I had to work some jobs that I didn't want to work. I had to do some things that I didn't want to do. But I had that savings there. If I did not have that savings, I would have been homeless. I wouldn't have been able to survive. But because of that, it gave me an opportunity to make other choices that would bring me back up, that I wouldn't be in the state I was. But you have to be willing to make those hard choices. You have to be willing, as First Lady taught us last week, to walk in the discipline of discipline. Listen, in this world, you got to do either one or two things. Either you got to make more money or spend less money to be financially free. And if you've cut everything and you can't spend less money, guess what you got to do? You got to make more money. So that means you got to do something that you may not want to do. I don't want to work at Hardee's. Well, they're the only one that's hiring right now. Go to work at Hardee's. I may not want to work third shift. Well, that's the only place you're going to get this job. So you got to be willing to, and when you don't take those chances and don't take those opportunities, then you can't blame everybody else. And you can't be mad at the world, because contrary to popular belief, there's opportunities out there now if we would only take advantage of them and use wise decisions. Amen. Amen. Go ahead.
One thing I want to add to that is I think a lot of times we think about money as this glorious thing, right? This thing that does so much. Stop thinking about it that way. Money is a tool. It's a resource. It's designed to be used the right way. So if you think about it differently, then all the pride about where you work and what you do to earn that resource changes. So think about it just a little bit differently if that's a thing that gets in the way.
I like that. Before we move into financial security, I want to share another little thing that I thought about. Bishop said that he was making, you said about 80,000. Me with the PhD, would y'all believe I've never made $80,000 in my life? And I have the degree that say that I should be making 80,000. But the one thing that has been consistent from the first check that I got is with AFDC, I got $60. Tell y'all how long ago that's been. I was happy with that $60 for that month. I took that $60 and I paid my tithes. And I did that one consistent thing, even with that little $60. And one time I remember I was bringing home, I was teaching school. We was bringing home $423 a week. Lord have mercy.
I know.
Lord, I said, Jesus, I don't know how I'm gonna make it. But it was bringing home that $423 that I was able to take my kids on a vacation. We went to Universal Studios and spent the week of Thanksgiving. So it was in that one thing of making sure that I tithe on that little bit of money that I had, that God was able to stretch it. And we don't say that he's able to stretch it just saying it. There are many witnesses in here that I know that they can say that God was able to stretch that little bit of money that I had. And I'm a living witness, and I continue to say it and believe it and walk in it. God will stretch.
Yes, he will.
If you pay your tithes and you give it lovingly and know that he is able, he will stretch whatever you have. And so you might be living in poverty, and I got to preach it, my God. But you might be living in poverty today, but you don't have to live in poverty if you just start making the right decision with the money that God continues to give you. So we're going to move on into financial security. Lord have mercy. Come on. Financial security. So how can my money make money for me?
This is the part I really wanted to get to. This is the fun part. And we got to, again, think about money a little bit differently. We got to use this tool to do something with it. So I'm going to give you two expressions that describe what you can do with your money. You can buy things and own them, so you own things, or you can loan your money and make money from that. Loan. Own versus loan.
No.
So you got to think of that. So when you own something like real estate or stocks or something that gives you value back, you own a piece of that. If it does good, you do good. If it does bad, you do bad. It is direct ownership. Okay, that's one way to look at it. So being an owner of investments can be, like I mentioned, stocks. It can be mutual funds. It can be real estate. It can be a vehicle. It can be clothes. You own something that's tangible. You are a part owner. Excuse me. And it's either making money for you or losing money for you. Okay, so you just got to figure out which one it's doing. Buying clothes, you need those, but is it making money for you? Then it's losing money for you. Buying a car, is it making money for you? Or is it losing? Now you could be a dealer, right, for a car dealer, and you might be making money, but you got to think about it differently, right? So that's a different perspective. You own the dealership, not the car. See the difference? So owning something that brings value, that increases the value of what you own, is one way to invest. So let's talk about loan. Loaning your money. Does everybody know that when you put your money in the bank, that you're loaning your money to the bank? Did you know that? All right, so that's one way to do it. So are we getting anything back for that?
No.
All right, a couple
That's
cents, not
it.
very much. Who's making the money there?
The bank.
The bank, right? So you got to find a place that you can loan your money to that will actually pay you. You become the bank. So I'll give you a quick example of things that will make you the bank. Has anybody ever heard of a bond? Yeah, you remember some of us when we were kids, right? Our parents would buy these bonds, these double E series bonds, and if you held it for 30 years, it would double its money. Well, that takes a long time to make that money, doesn't it? But you loaned your money to the government. They paid you. They doubled your money for you loaning your money to them. That's a way to do that. There's other types of bonds out there. So there's municipal bonds. So there's a police station that was just built a few years ago off of Kernersville Road, and there was one off of over by my office, and then there was a third one. I can't remember where it was. So the city decided to build those police stations for whatever reason, right? Substation, yep. And so when they did that, they had a choice to get that money. One way was to raise taxes. The second way was to borrow money from other banks. And the third way is to issue a bond. So they chose to issue a bond.
Yeah.
So that bond gets announced to the city and other residents of North Carolina and says, hey, residents of North Carolina, if you loan me $1,000, whatever it is, I promise to pay you 5% interest on that $1,000 for the next 15 years. You get to keep all that interest for 15 years, and at the end of 15 years, I give you back 100% of your money. Oh, and by the way, the interest that you got, because you're a North Carolina resident, is tax-free. What do you think of that? So you just now became the bank, didn't you? So that's how you got to start thinking about investing, is how do I use own type investments and loan type investments to make my money work for me. That's exactly what it is.
Well, hold on. Tell me how we do the bonds. Give me the real information. I need to know where the bonds at and how I get to them.
So there's different ways to get access to that. Yeah, that's good. That's good. So we all have access to it. So if you sit in those municipal meetings for the government, they do this citywide. You just got to watch for the announcements. They do that, or you get a financial advisor. Your financial advisor can buy those things for you if they're appropriate. So remember, if it's appropriate, you got to make sure that's right for you.
So Sean, you talked about the car dealership and stuff. So I told Bishop, I was like, Bishop, I want a Tesla. I can see it, right? This week he told him, no, we're gonna get us an electric bike. That's a big difference between a Tesla and an electric bike. But the concept is what we need to catch hold of. And that's what I wanted to bring out, that yes, we can go get a Tesla and it would be really, really nice. But the same way that I can leave from my house and come to work and come to church in a Tesla, I can do that same thing on an electric bike. If you haven't rode an electric bike, y'all, it's like you're not pedaling. I mean, it was nice. It was really nice. Now, it's expensive for a bike.
$500.
Like $1,500.
Well, that was for kids.
Okay. But it's an investment and it's much cheaper than a Tesla or any brand new car for that matter, because it's going to lose its value as soon as it
Hit the road.
drive off the lot and stuff. But so when y'all see me with the little electric bike, know that I wanted a Tesla. My husband said no.
And listen, oh, go ahead, Bridget.
My mother got a quick bag, bro.
Okay.
Yeah, but my mother got a quick.
Go ahead, Mom.
Go ahead, Mom.
Okay. If you have like, okay, I'll say $15,000, and it's just there. What is the best thing to do with it? You know, because it's just sitting there, you ain't getting the interest on it.
Yeah, so the
What's
question,
what's the best thing to do?
the question is, if you got somebody sitting on the side and it's doing nothing for you, what's the best thing to do? The truth is, you need to sit down with a planner or an advisor. Because I'm to answer that question right now, without knowing your story, without knowing your situation, would probably not be good. And I don't want other people to do this either. So you really should sit down with someone, figure out your situation, and then decide what to do. Because then we're going to have all kinds of options for you. But there are options out there for your lazy money to do something for you. Okay, so there are options out there.
Yeah, well, I was just wanting to know, you know, what could I do? It's just sitting there.
Yeah,
And
there's
if it can make me, you know, I can make money on it.
Yeah.
You know.
so there's all those things that was mentioned before. There are all types of investments. We just got to figure out what's right for you, because and here's the important thing to think about. Some of those investments make you money over a long period of time. Some do it over a short period of time. So this is why it's hard to answer that question, because we need to make sure that's right for you. And it could be a combination. So it could be some of those stocks. It could be something that pays you interest, like a bond or a money market account, or even a CD. Those things are out there. There's lots of options, but it depends on your situation. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish. But those things are available. You have a question also?
Yeah, do you have any cards that you bought with you?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so the next question. Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
How much does a financial advisor cost?
So again, it's totally different across the board. Depends on where you go. So some firms will charge you a fee, like a consultation fee, to sit down with them, and then some will charge you fees when you start to invest. So I do not charge fees to have consultations. It is only when you invest is when you pay a fee, and that depends on what you're buying. So it can range from pennies to many dollars, just depends on what it is you're going to invest. So that's a great question. Make sure you always ask that question before you sit with someone. How do you get paid? They're supposed to tell you. Okay.
So the next question we're going to talk about is, I'm going to kind
I
of
want
wrap
to
it
ask
up.
another
Go ahead. Go ahead.
question. You sit down with these, whoever, advisor, whoever,
Yes.
they'll help you in deciding what will be the best option for you to take.
Yes. So the question is, when you sit with an advisor or a planner, they'll help you figure out the best action to take. That's exactly right. They're going to look at your whole picture, everything, and say, okay, based on your story, based on where you are in your life, it makes sense to do this with this money. And we're supposed to be there to put you in the best possible situation, not the worst. The worst thing I could do as an advisor is not understand everything that's happening to you, take your money and then invest it. And you tell me next week, oh, I need that. Oh, I thought this was long term. I didn't realize you're going to need it in a week.
Yeah.
I made a mistake. Oh, and by the way, because I made that mistake, it's down in value. You're going to get less back.
Yeah, because when you like you invest this money, you don't invest all the money that you have.
Correct. That's exactly right. That's why I say it's important for everyone to sit down with someone so you get the big picture. So whoever's giving you advice, they understand your whole story, because the worst thing we can do is make a mistake like that and put you in the wrong direction.
You should have come to church. Go ahead and ask me a question.
Hey, I'm calling because I'm driving on the highway trying to get back to Wesley. So I'm listening. My question is, my husband and I took our money to try and invest in our some money from I have my retirement in order to set it aside and make some money for myself. And we put money in. We followed the financial advisor through our bank to invest in some stocks. And in the beginning, we lost about $3,000 out of it, and I didn't like it, so I took it out. My question to you is, how do I find the proper financial advisor that's not into it to sell products, but into it to help me better my money?
I can fix that right now. What you do is you go to Sean Newby over at Edward Jones off of Stratford Road, and he can fix that for you.
Okay, that's for me, but I'm talking about in a general concept.
In the general concept, everybody in the city needs to go to Edward Jones.
Carla, honestly, we're saying it jokingly, but Sean has not led me wrong for the last 10 years. So you need to go to someone that comes highly recommended based on the work that he has done, and the work that he has done for your brother and I has been wonderful. So you go to him and stop trying to do stuff on your own and use your resources.
Also, and the problem that, and Sean may be able to speak more on this, that we run into, if I'm going to the bank and I'm using a financial advisor for the bank and they're employed by the bank, whose best interest do they think they're going to hold first?
The bank.
The banks. So you need someone that's not connected to that will be able to hold your interest, in priority. Now, Sean, you can speak on that.
Yeah. So for me, and what I do in my practice, I'm not driven by sales quotas and products. So that's one thing that's off the table. So those things don't happen that way. But I will tell you that you hear these stories all the time. This is not out of the ordinary. And really, it's because if you really take a look back, if this was your story, the reason this happened was because maybe you didn't spend enough time understanding what you bought as a product and why you bought it. Because those are really two important things. Because if you bought it for a short-term need, or if you had a fear or anxiety about losing that, then maybe we shouldn't have bought that product. So those are things to consider, and that's why I think it's really important not for me to tell you right here in front of an audience what you should be buying. I think it's important for you to really sit down and understand what you're going to buy and why we're going to buy it.
Absolutely. Again, when we have our money, we make money for us. That's the winning scenario. But there's a few scenarios, especially in the African American community, that always shoots us in the foot. One of them is insurance. The second one is wills. We don't often plan for the inevitable. And when I say that, somebody dies, there was no life insurance. Now you've put your children in a position where they have to go in debt in order to take care of your final expenses and things like that. So the question is, how do we use insurance, and how does insurance can be used as a tool for families?
So insurance comes in, honestly, almost 1,000 different types. And a lot of people don't realize that there's all these combinations out there. We probably know insurance, most familiar with insurance in a way of death benefit, meaning something happens to you, what do I pass on? And even that concept and that idea comes in different forms. So again, sitting down with a financial advisor or a planner and understanding what you want this insurance to do is really important, because we can customize it. Okay? And don't be afraid to get a second opinion, because there's a lot of different policies, a lot of different things out there, and everybody's going to tell you they got the best, because that's their job, right? So things to think about with life insurance. Life insurance comes in the form of, we already said, death benefit. It can also be used to pay for final expenses. It can be used to cover taxes when you pass away. It can be used to create income. It can be used to it can be used to create retirement income. It can be used to cover long-term care if you need it. It can be used to create disability income. So it comes in all these different forms. Not only that, you can build cash value and you can buy term. So there's all kinds of stuff out there. You have got to sit down with somebody to make sure you're buying the right stuff for the right reason, because there's so many variations. We have to stop letting these agents, I'm also an agent, we have to stop letting agents tell us, oh, I think this is right for you. Why? Why do you think this is right for me? What is this going to do for me? What if those things, if they explain it, what if they're not important to you? So you've got to ask those questions. So I'm going to give you one more piece about, because we grew up, and I even heard this as a child, we grew up learning that we should buy whole life insurance. That's not necessarily true anymore. Things have changed. Whole life insurance is not what it was when I was a child and when my parents were younger. You definitely need to ask questions when someone says you need a whole life policy. Why? What's it going to do for me? Great, it's going to build me cash value. What do I use that for? What's the purpose of building cash value inside of an insurance policy? Those are great questions that you need to ask. Important questions you need to ask. But you definitely need to use some type of way to protect your plan. That's what life insurance is designed to do, protect your plan. So if you take a young family, I'm going to use my situation. We've got a family, I'm raising a family, I'm still married, still working, and I drive back and forth to work every day. If I don't have enough of my own personal assets and money, when I say that, to cover my family when I pass, I probably need something else to cover me, because if I get into a car accident and I don't make it home, how's my family going to continue? So those are things that you have to think about. How long do I need to have that coverage? Well, if my kids, I just said my kids are grown, my youngest are 18, so how much longer do I need that kind of coverage? Do I need permanent coverage? Do I need $1 million policy for the rest of my life? I don't know. I may not. Those are questions that you need to ask yourself, and you need to ask an advisor. Don't let an agent tell you what you need. You need to ask why. That's the most important part.
Excellent. You got that?
Not another question. I just wanted to share with everyone that I didn't know about long-term care insurance, and how it came about. My grandmother, she was in, what's that nursing home? It's a real nice nursing home.
Oh, you talking about Salem Town?
Salem Town. If you've ever been in there, it's really nice. But now she's in another nursing home, and I won't share which nursing home, but it's drastically different. And so I asked my aunt, I was like, well, why did you move her out of this nice one that was Salem Town over here? And she was like, it was because Medicaid only covered over here. And so it made me start thinking that I believe I'm gonna be 100 years old. So that means that I might get sick along the way and I might need some long-term care. I don't want to be over here in this not as nice nursing home. I want to be over here in Salem Town. So that means that now I need to start thinking, okay, I don't know if it's too late, but let me see if I can get some long-term care insurance so that I can afford to pay for Salem Town, because I know in my last days, I don't want to be over there. And that's what financial freedom and planning and all of that is, that I'm looking at the fullness of my life. This is where I'm at now. This is where I hope to be one day. How can you help me to get there? And I think that that's the key in all that we've been saying. A financial advisor can help you to navigate where you are now and get you to where you want to be, looking at the larger picture. So that's my concluding thoughts.
My concluding thoughts, and certainly thank Sean for coming, and we'll let him have final words. My concluding thoughts, as a people, and I say as a people, I mean African Americans, we're behind the boat in so many different things. Not so much because of the situation we're in as being oppressed in the United States, but many times we are behind the boat of so many things because we simply do not invest the time and the energy into understanding and knowing what we need to know. Understanding, being financially literate is an essential in a capitalistic country such as the United States. Learning how money works is essential. Learning investments, stocks, bonds, how the municipalities work. We need more of our faces downtown at those commissioner meetings, those planning meetings. So not only we can understand what's going on, but we can have a voice in what's going on. We need to vote. Amen, somebody.
Amen.
I don't care what your what denomination, Lord, I don't care what your political party is. I don't care what your beliefs are. You need to vote, because voting is power, and voting is how we change things for the better for us. And I just hate to say it, the other folks, they teach their children this from a small age. Mm-hmm. They have insurance policies on their children from a small age. They have funds and trust funds for their children at a small age. They take out pieces and portions of money to pay for college. That way, when they get to the time of college, it's already paid for, it's already taken care of, because they've learned and they've got financial planners and advisors. I hear you, Junior Bishop. Got financial advisors and planners. They've invested the money in the future. We only invest in the here and now. And we've got to stop doing that. We've got to learn to invest in the future, which means you need to start making moves now. You can't sit on your do nothing now and expect something to happen later. If you got to work more jobs, you need to do it. If you got to cut and stop spending so much money, stop going out to eat, do it. She wanted a Tesla. She's not getting it.
Amen.
We get some electric bikes. Amen.
Amen.
I want stuff. I'm not getting it. We got to invest in the future, and you got to start now. You can't wait till I'm 56. You realize how hard it is to get some insurance at 56?
Mm-hmm. The older you get, the harder it is.
According to the insurance company, I got one foot in the grave. And then I'm not insurable. But when you're your age, you need to start now. At this age, how old are you? 20? 21. Start now thinking about when you're 50. Because guess what? Next week, you'll be 50. Mm-hmm. Just like that. Yep. And you have spent your whole life living behind the ball when you could have been living in front of it. Okay? Amen. Sean, last words.
So my last words, two things that I want to just mention. First of all, legacy. I think legacy is important. Legacy is more than about money. It's about a mindset, and you get to pass that on. We didn't always have this in our community, and so we get to change that now. We have voices now. We have more money flowing through our communities now than we ever have in the history of time. But yet we're not hanging on to it. And so your legacy begins now, and we need to make sure we're doing the right things and we're teaching other families, our families, what to do with this stuff. Second thing, if you forget everything that we talked about today, the key thing I want you to think about is the GPS example that I used. So if you forget all the details, just go back to the GPS and say, where am I right now? Where do I want to go? How do I get there? And how do I stay on track? Those are the 4 most important pieces that you need to remember out of everything today.
Amen. Amen. Amen, y'all. Amen. Amen. We thank Sean for coming today and taking this time. Anyone that wants to talk to Sean, get his card.